Okay, you've got your license, right? The open road is calling your name, and you are dreaming about that first car. But then, bam, you run smack into this super confusing world of financing, loans, and leases. Don't even worry about it. We are going to give you the keys to understand all of it. Let's do this.
So you see an ad just like this one, a brand new car, way cooler than your parents' ride, for only $199 a month. I mean, that almost sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And you know, whenever something sounds too good to be true, you gotta pull out your secret weapon, math.
And look, I totally get it. Getting those keys in your hand feels like unlocking this whole new level of freedom. And leasing, it's often sold as this amazing shortcut to driving a new car without that giant price tag of actually buying one. But what are you really signing up for?
Okay, let's break down what leasing actually means. No confusing language, I promise. Just the straight facts so you can figure out if it's the right move for you.
The easiest way to think about it is like renting an apartment instead of buying a house. You pay a monthly fee to use the car for a set amount of time, usually like 2 or 3 years. What you're really paying for is the car's depreciation. That's just a fancy word for how much value the car loses over time. And when the lease is up, you just hand the keys back. The most important thing to remember is you never, ever actually own it. So let's look at the trade-offs here. On the plus side, your monthly payments are almost always going to be lower than if you were buying, which is awesome. And repairs? They're usually covered by the warranty. Pretty sweet, right? But, and this is a big but, the major downside is that at the end of the lease, you have zero ownership, no equity. All that money is just gone. Plus, there are some pretty serious traps you can fall into, like mileage.
So, how do you know if it's right for you? Just ask yourself these 3 simple questions. 1. Do you get bored with cars and always want a new one every few years? 2. Do you love the idea of never having to pay for surprise repairs? And 3, this is the big one, do you drive less than 15,000 miles a year? If you said yes to all 3, leasing might be a good option. If not, you really need to be careful.
All right, it's time. Let's dig into the math behind that amazing $199 deal. And hey, don't worry. This is not your boring algebra class. This is real-world detective work, and it's probably going to save you thousands of dollars. We start with the number that catches everyone's eye, $199. That's the payment you're going to make every single month. Next up, this deal isn't forever. It's for 36 months, which is exactly 3 years. So we've got to multiply that monthly payment by 36. Simple enough. But hang on. This is where it gets tricky. Hidden in that fine print, there's a required down payment. To even get the keys, you have to hand over almost $2,000 up front. So we have to add that to our running total. And there it is. The total cost to just use this car for 3 years, if everything goes perfectly, is just over $9 grand. Not quite as simple as $199 a month, is it? But believe it or not, the story doesn't end here. Okay, here's where things can get really dangerous. You get the car, and life happens. You know, those spontaneous trips to the beach, visiting family a few states over, that amazing cross-country road trip you've always dreamed of taking with your friends. All those miles start adding up fast. Remember that third question I asked? This is exactly why it's so important. The lease has a super strict limit of 15,000 miles a year, but you were out there living your best life and drove 25,000 miles each year. That's a 10,000 miles surplus every single year. So over the 3 years of the lease, you've now driven 30,000 miles more than the contract allowed. And you can bet the dealership is keeping track of every single one.
And here's the killer part. For every single mile you go over that limit, the company charges you a penalty. In this case, it's 20 cents per mile. Now that sounds tiny, right? But tiny things can add up to be huge problems.
Brace yourself for this. 30,000 miles times 20 cents a mile equals a $6,000 penalty. That's a massive bill they hit you with the day you bring the car back. Wow. Suddenly, that road trip doesn't seem so cheap. So you add that $6,000 penalty to your initial cost, and your real total for leasing this car skyrockets to over $15,000. That is a gigantic difference, and it was all buried in the fine print. Now that we know the real cost of leasing this car, let's see how it stacks up against actually buying the very same car. It's time for a head-to-head battle. And this right here, this slide puts it all into perspective. Now, yeah, that monthly payment for buying the 580, that's a lot higher. I see it. The total you spend is higher too. But, and this is the most important part, look at that last row. After 3 years of leasing, you spent 15 grand and you have nothing. You just walk away. After 3 years of buying, yeah, you spent more, but you have an actual asset. You have a car that you own.
See? Math isn't something to be afraid of. It's a tool. It's your co-pilot for making these huge life decisions, and it puts you in the driver's seat of your financial future.
So here's your financial toolkit. Here's what you need to remember. 1. Always read the fine print. 2. Pay super close attention to those mileage limits. 3. Ignore the shiny monthly payment and do the math on the total cost. And 4. Never forget the huge difference between just renting something and actually owning it. This is really what it all boils down to. When you walk into that dealership, they already know all these numbers. By taking just a few minutes to figure them out for yourself, you completely level the playing field. Understanding the math puts you in control of the deal.
So next time you're sitting in class thinking, when am I ever going to use this? Remember this. Math isn't just a subject. It's a superpower that helps you see through tricky ads, avoid expensive traps, and make smart decisions for your entire life. Now who's ready for that road trip?